Damn, I love that intro. Thank you again, Matty, for creating that. It's really awesome. We're back after 4 weeks.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah,
Busy days, man.
yeah. And if you're gone for 4 weeks with UAPs, there's like so much catching up to do. So
Yeah.
this show is actually one giant try to catch up because we're not gonna be able to catch up. But I got a lot of cool clips, a lot of interviews that people should watch. But before we jump into all that, how are you doing, Sid?
I am good. Busy, very busy. And now I am literally lost with what's happening in the UFO world because current affairs are too interesting. Like we have presidential debate going on, race war are about to start. I'm just saying too much crazy stuff on Twitter.
Well,
So
you know, it is the bigger picture. So, that stuff
yeah,
is also important. What
yeah.
is your take on all of that?
Oh, we are stupid. That's what I just want to say. That's my
But
conclusion.
beyond that,
No, I'm saying we are stupid and it will be much better aliens come over and attack us. Because like we are fighting for no reason. I just see on Twitter is crazy stuff like people are against one group one day and then those people are fighting next day with each other on a stupid issue. But the most important thing right now is election, and Trump is making mistakes after mistakes, and I think he will hand over the election to Kamala and
oh
she
my
will
god.
win. And that will be a nightmare scenario. I think 200, how old is USA? I think 250 plus years, right? That
Uh,
country will collapse. That empire will collapse just within 4 years
yeah,
because she's too stupid.
yeah. About empires collapsing. There's this amazing book which I read, I don't know, 15 years ago, from Joseph Tainter, The Collapse of Complex Societies. It's not. It's like two. It's not. Yeah, I think 200 pages, something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
but I'm just saying I will blame Trump for making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. I think his first mistake was picking a wrong VP. JD Vance is not a good VP. He should
agreed.
have picked someone else or RFK. Just imagine on the ticket Trump and RFK. Nobody could have beat that ticket. I don't like any of them, but like I know that's a very strong ticket. Kamala would have never stand a chance against it. And then in debate, he didn't even prepare about anything, and she just destroyed him. Like he lost clearly, and then he said, "I'm not going to debate again." Like, are you stupid? You should have debate again. Like prepare for it and destroyed her. But now you're giving away all the chances. And then in debate, he was saying stupid shit like, "I have an idea of a plan for medical care." Like, what's the idea of a plan? You are running for president. You should have a plan at this point. At
Yeah.
least on words, you have something to say. Yes, I have a plan, and that's my plan. Like, I will cut off the insurance, or I will give free healthcare, whatever it is, or I will increase the price, but give something. You can't just say I have. So he's making mistakes, and Kamala will win because of that.
Well, let's hope and pray that doesn't work. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not per se a Trump fan. I am still a RFK fan, as you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I know you aren't, and that's fine, right?
No, but to be honest, if
But
I
if
have a
Kamala wins, it's that would
no,
be
to be honest, among RFK, Trump, and this, RFK is like the much better option. So in that way, I will prefer him. But like the truth is, it's Trump versus
yeah.
Kamala.
Yeah.
I don't like any of them, but like if between them I have to choose, I will definitely choose Trump because he is much better. I've seen his 4 years. The economy was amazing. There were no wars, and
Yeah, and
her
then
4 years were stupid.
and then plus, right? We are Bitcoiners and crypto fans,
Yeah,
and his
exactly.
policies, or at least the policies that he's talking about, would be extremely beneficial for America, and
I
probably also the
by
world.
the way, I have learned, not learned, I have heard that he's launching a crypto exchange. Trump.
Yeah. So my problem is the opposite of yours. I've been so busy with the UAP file that I totally missed the whole debate.
No,
And
it's good. So we can
uh,
cover. So basically, I think on Monday he's launching a crypto exchange, and then there. So there, he's launching a whole exchange with the utility and the token. First
Wow.
of all, I'm gonna go and buy whatever the token they're gonna release, because if he wins, that will make us millionaires.
Okay, you have to inform me. You keep me informed about that
Yeah, I
because
will keep you
yeah,
informed once
yeah,
they release information on Monday. But yeah, crypto exchange is coming, and that's a huge thing. A president of a country releasing an exchange, which means USA will be the next country to legalize crypto. He will
yeah.
legalize crypto.
Yeah, no, that's without a doubt, and I think he will also do the treasury and start,
Yeah,
buying Bitcoin on a monthly basis. The
yeah,
stuff that RFK was also talking about,
and
and
then
there's also issues with that, right? But in general, that would be a net
I will
positive.
rather have someone buy than sell it. So let him. And then Elon Musk is going to be in his cabinet.
Yeah, you okay? Tell that story. Tell that story.
So basically, uh, Department of Energy Efficiency or Efficiency something. Anyway,
That's
he's
the
going
Department of Government Efficiency.
government efficiency, which is like the abbreviation of it is like Doge, and he planned it. So just imagine, like, if he becomes the head of that department, and the department is called Doge. So Dogecoin is going to the moon. But again, he's pro crypto. RFK is pro crypto. JD Vance is very pro crypto. That's the only good thing about him. And then Trump himself. So it will be the best case scenario for all the crypto holders. And again, even in the world situation, I know that he will stop the wars. Kamala will keep it going. And they are already currently talking about giving uh, missiles to Ukraine, which will be used to attack the thing and stuff. So I think, oh yeah, that's the amazing picture.
Yeah,
Doge, Department of Government Efficiency. That's the whole thing.
yeah, and he said it in a speech, right? So it's not just Elon being Elon,
Yeah,
but Trump
that's a
actually.
real thing. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
real thing, but it's all Elon's idea. And I think
yeah,
no matter what you say about him, he is efficient because he fired useless stuff of Twitter, which is like 80% of stuff, and he's running that company very well with 20% of stuff. No matter what you say, Twitter is like the best platform right now.
yeah, and this picture that you see here was tweeted out by Elon Musk himself. You can see
Mm,
the handle above.
exactly.
So this is not just a picture; it's actually Elon Musk tweeting about it himself. So yeah, that would be extremely positive. And there's still this story, and it hasn't, it's the rumors alive and well. I talked about it with you last time, but I think 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, Elon was also talking about launching the Doge One or Dodge One rocket
Yeah,
to the moon with the first satellite that will sort of spin around the moon and then project probably a Dodge NFT
on
um,
the moon.
on the moon, and I believe it will also be paid for in Doge.
Yeah,
So yeah, so it sort of shows his commitment to the
but
space race, but also to Doge.
yeah,
And last time when we talked about Mars, we
mhm,
talked about sort of the different companies that Elon has developed, from Neuralink to Starlink, X, SpaceX, the Boring Company. But one thing that we forgot to mention, I actually put it in the description, but he's also very deep into crypto, right?
oh yeah, he's deep into it.
And
Also, just
clearly, yeah.
imagine that technology. Like, if you can project something on the moon instead of just seeing a white moon, if a company can pay and advertise on the moon, that will be the most amazing thing. He
Yep.
will make so much money, and if it's getting paid in that Doge, that will be a crazy,
And
crazy
for the
idea.
people who are interested, and this information I got from Chico Crypto, who I used to follow,
Hmm.
and I bought some of the tokens. There are actually tokens, crypto tokens, that you can buy right now for nothing, that will sort of be used as payment systems to for the satellite to project those images on the.
Are they real tokens or?
Yeah.
Okay, send me the link.
I will.
I don't know about that. I thought it's because it's only going to be Elon Musk's right now who will control everything. So I think it's going to be Doge. But if there is anything else, yeah, I missed that news.
Yeah, that's sort of the tokens have to do with sort of the horizontal and the vertical axis on the sort of the projection screen, and sort of the time that you can show your what you call it, your advertisement. There are tokens sort of involved with that
Oh,
satellite.
that's so. What's the name of those tokens? Like what?
From the top of my head, because it's been a while, I think the ones that I bought, and this is not financial advice, right? It's extremely risky. I might be, totally off. I got the information from Chico, and he's often on the mark.
Mhm.
So far, the tokens haven't done much, also. So be aware.
Which is fine.
But it's called, I think, She token, QI. But I'll link it down below for the people who are interested. So they're super cheap. So I bought a couple, and if it goes nowhere, then it's
Yeah, it's 20 cents right now. That sounds good.
yeah. Oh, then they have gone up.
Oh, sorry, 2 cents. Sorry, 2 cents.
Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah, something like
2
that. Yeah, otherwise I would be very happy. Okay. Okay, well, that's okay. So, and then one more thing, of course, about that is going into space, creating his space empire, whatever it is that he's trying to build. We said it before on this channel. You're not going to do it with gold. You're not going to do it with silver. You're not going to do it with paper money. You're not even going to do it with digital money that we're using now. You're going to do it with blockchain centered money.
Yeah,
right? That's the only way to do this. And that's what he's involved in, right? He was one of the PayPal people. He's often, he's also closely associated with Peter Thiel, of course, and Peter Thiel and Vance are, buddies. So this whole sort of group is centered around Trump, and you also had this what was it called? Cambridge Analytica scandal. What was it during Obama's election? With Cambridge Analytica snooping and informing and misinforming and directing people in order to vote. Whatever. I don't even remember, but it's sort of the Peter Thiel stuff that was really bad. Maybe know the details. I forgot the details, but
I forgot to. I don't like Peter Thiel, so
no. But the interview that he did with Joe Rogan was very interesting.
yeah. But I don't even gonna trust his words, because the thing I think he gives me evil vibes, and when somebody's giving me evil vibes, I don't trust their words.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big Thiel fan either. He's also involved with some of the weapon systems in Israel, which I also don't like. And he has this really strange way of talking. But one of the people that we are going to talk about, or at least show some clips from, is Jesse Michels. And Jesse Michels is very very informed and very up to date, a very smart fellow, and nice to listen to, and he makes amazing shows. But he is closely connected to Peter Thiel, and yeah. So I think he does some of his finance stuff at some point. I think the family office or something that he ran or helped ran. Correct me if I'm wrong, but something along those lines. And he says that the UAP stuff, Peter Thiel, is sort of aloof or uninterested. But I don't believe that for 1 minute. So there's also, and that's something that we're going to talk about, right? Because what I'm going to do today is I'm going to sort of give an update, and the way that I'm going to do the update is I'm going to sort of show you some interviews, some fragments from interviews, like we always do. And these interviews, each of them are pretty long. Some are incredibly long, but they are absolutely worth every single minute of your time if you can spare it. And they highlight different things, and one of the things that they are talking about is basically the stuff that we're now talking about different factions fighting around the UAP file, and the way sort of what's going on in Congress, and how departments are compartmentalized and don't know what the one is doing, and the clearances and the security and the secrecy and all that kind of stuff. So let's start with this interview, and it was, I think, Fibos Foni who shared it, and then I haven't finished it yet, but it's very interesting. So let's go there.
If you work in the Department of Energy, the main subset of the Department of Energy that works on nuclear materials is the National Nuclear Security Administration, and they handle essentially our nuclear stockpile and make sure that the weapons are ready to give to the Defense Department for use in our platforms. So that's a whole architecture of secrecy. Within the Department of Energy, they also have their own special access program. So things that need to be protected with extraordinary measures, right, to ensure that no adversary can, one, even understand that they exist. So those kind of the classic black programs. So DOE has their own architecture for special access programs. And then you have the more traditional, much larger zone of classified activities within the Defense Department and the intelligence community. Those are the main big buckets. But even things like DHS, Department of Homeland Security, has their own special access programs. NASA even has their own special access programs. And so within the Defense Department or the intelligence community, which is where the majority of the folks that work on classified materials work, you get access to information associated with your position, whether you've been granted a top secret designation by your agency, and then a need to know to access particular compartments. And so that is basically the architecture. It's pretty sprawling. Probably, at least a few million people have top secret clearances. But any particular program, the fundamental principle is compartmentalization, meaning that you might have the tickets, but if you don't get granted need to know to a particular program or subprogram, you might not know it even exists.
So he does an excellent job in sort of breaking these different levels, different compartments down, and sort of the different levels of secrecy, but also sort of what's wrong with it and how it all works. He does a really nice job of breaking that all down and making it understandable. He's called Matthew Pines. He's an excellent person to follow on Twitter. He does amazing tweets. And this interview was, as usual, because his stuff is really, really good. His interviews are really interesting, and it's very closely to what we're all, our own theories are very closely aligned with those of, at least mine are very closely aligned to those of Matthew Pines. So, so basically, what he's arguing here is that it's super inefficient, that there's like a ton of redundancy. That different compartmentalized, basically different departments are working on the same stuff using tons of money, taxpayer money, developing basically similar things without knowing from each other. So there's sort of a lot of inefficiency and redundancy, and there's no oversight and no management. And that's, so that's one issue. And that's probably also, Tim Burchett, that's his name, right? Yeah. So I think he's like the Republican congressman who's now sort of pushing for UAP disclosure. And that's his angle, right? So his angle is basically, why are we spending so much money on UAPs if there's nothing there, right?
Yeah, and again, I remember Bob Lazar was saying that for a very long time, from the 80s, that this is how they operate. They hire different people in different teams, and they don't interact with each other. They don't share data, and nobody knows what they are working on. They give them one piece of metal and say, decode this, whatever it is. And because of this information security, like the levels of security, people cannot build a big picture around it because they are not sharing data. They don't know what other person is working on. So that's why from last 70, 80 years, we are stuck at the same place.
Well, that's of course the question, right? The question is, how far along are we really? And is there anybody with true oversight? It looks like there isn't, right? If you hear all these stories, there seems to be no, or at least a lack of oversight, and that people are working on similar things without knowing each. And then you got this, the security issue, like what you're describing, is you don't want to give somebody the big picture because then they know what they're working on, and then it will leak out, and then you have to kill them, and it becomes all messy and stuff. So
And I think they created their own mess. According to him, he was saying that there are millions of people who have top secret information, but that is need to know. Instead, if they build a team of only 100 people with full access, they will solve this issue within few years. But no,
Yeah,
they are going to the opposite way where they're wasting taxpayer money. That's where the black budget comes in. And the people. Some people say that David Fravors sighting and like all the gimbal video, Tic Tac video, they are US technology
yeah,
and they decode it. I don't believe that because,
me neither.
on the other hand, when I see it, they are nowhere. Otherwise, we would have seen something like that in war zone. US was involved in big wars. They have not used any of that technology.
Well, there are sightings during.
No, sightings are different because sightings in every war you see a sighting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like from if you go to the Hindu Mahabharat, there were sightings of the orb.
yeah. Okay, yeah, but I mean, also in modern wars, there are sightings.
Yeah, so I'm saying since then there are some sightings. In
Yeah,
1500, I'm the new piece I'm doing. I will share details next week because it's ready. So I
cool.
will launch it. So that's about one event in 1561. So
And,
Roswell and World War, people forget Foo Fighters in World War II. Foo
yeah.
Fighters was a big thing. They definitely did not have technology. So yes, there is sighting, but use of weapon, because if they have weapons like that, they would have destroyed Russia by now.
Well, but that's like you and me talked about this before. But
Yeah,
it's clearly the case that Russia and China also have these technologies and are also developing them. And then the
yeah.
question becomes like, how are their departments? Are they, similar compartmentalized? Are they similarly not knowing what the right hand is doing, what the left hand is doing?
No,
You know,
I think they are doing better, but I don't
I
think
think
they
so
have.
too.
But I don't think they have enough stuff to work on, because most of the, I think, debris was captured by US, even internationally, because you see US Army going to Brazil, Iraq, and everywhere. Wherever they find the debris, they are the one who retrieve it. Not
Yeah.
Russia, not China. They are
Well,
limited to their own
yeah.
country. And
Well,
some,
yeah.
yeah,
But it kind of depends, of course, what you find and if you can unlock it. And the Soviet scientists were very highly advanced, right? That they actually they were at some points more advanced than the Americans. They had to
at,
catch up to the Soviets at
at
some
some
point.
point, yeah, but
Yeah.
not now.
No, not now. No. So at the moment, you could argue, and that's probably the case, that America is way advanced, and
Yeah,
Ross Coulthard, is sort of taking the same sort of page from my book. He's starting saying what I've been saying, that he's sort of afraid that America is sort of becoming aware of their capabilities on this in this terrain, on this
yeah.
area, and that they might want to use it as an ace in the hole, and play that card. But when you sort of dive into this topic and go down all these different rabbit holes, and Ashton Forbes, but there's many other people who are also talking about it, it becomes pretty clear that the technology that we're talking about is super dangerous, right? It's super powerful, and it's way more powerful than nuclear weapons, right? So,
It is way more, but it's not our technology, so I don't think aliens, if they are giving us that technology, they will allow us to use it.
well, that
They
might, yeah. So, yeah. So,
they will
yeah.
intervene before we even try to do something stupid with that technology.
Yeah, so clearly, what you're just saying is these are considerations that we don't know if that's the case, but it could very well be the case, because there are also signs from the revelations from David Grush and all the others that there is contact between
Yeah,
governments
yeah,
and non-human intelligence, right? That's also becoming quite apparent, that there's some level of uh, coordination
yeah,
going on, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
Actually, it's not just U.S. government; it's also with Russian government. It's
in
also with,
Israel,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So, but mainly it's U.S. because I think all the biggest base in the world, which everyone knows about, is Area 51 and surround. Not whatever S4 right now, but there are the biggest bases are in US, and the system is very secure in US because they don't have anything overground. Everything is underground.
yep,
So, and then there are a lot of deserts in US.
yep.
So that way, I think there is a big, there is a rumor, right? It's all a rumor that there is a big contact going on between them, and they are playing their game. And then there are different type of races too, of
Yeah,
aliens.
yeah. That's also becoming
One
apparent.
race is,
Yeah.
yeah, one race, just call it a race right now. That one race is involved with US, another one is with Russian, and other one with different countries. So it's a big game, but it's all a rumor, so we can't prove one way or
Yeah.
another
And
right now. Yeah,
it could even be the case that multiple races are coordinating with
yeah,
multiple countries, right? I mean, we have simply no idea. We have no idea, right? But there is something going on there, and these weapons are very powerful. We in certain ways we sort of can imagine like what they can do, but there's also other ways that I haven't thought of, and that we might not even be able to imagine, like and that might be a reason not to use them, right? It could be that our allies, sort of these non-human intelligence, are sort of warning us not to use them, but it can also be like weapons of mass destruction, like that you don't want to use them because they are too powerful, and also if you start using it, that your adversary will also start using it, and then similar game theory dynamic might happen as with nuclear weapons, that somebody will make a wrong move and blow up the galaxy. It's
yeah.
basically.
Also, if you have not heard about, have you heard about Valiant Thor?
Nope.
Okay, so it's, I think it's the story from 70s or 60s. So there was this guy who was considered to be an alien ambassador to White House. There are pictures of him, but there is no record of him, like where he came from and where he went. So that's something we will add in detail in future. But there is a name of an alien ambassador. His name was Valiant Thor, and that's a conspiracy again. There is no proof, but
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
very interesting conspiracy. And then there is a story that he specifically told US government not to use nuclear weapons ever again because it affect them. Even if they test it here, it was after Star Wars program when they were
Yeah.
doing all the tests in the space of nuclear weapons. So they sent that ambassador to talk about that and guide them. So since after his visit, they stopped using the the whole nuclear weapon test and everything. But again, it's
Yeah,
all
that's good that you say that, because it triggered something which I have to look up, because it's a
yeah.
vague
I think
memory.
I need to recap the story because I've heard that 5 6 years ago. But I remember the name Valiant Thor. We will add that in the future list where we can talk more in detail about that guy.
Yeah. So okay, I'm gonna just play a clip, and then we're gonna talk more. So this is a bit of a long clip, and this interview is super amazing and mind blowing, and it's also super long.
Here with my new friend, Danny Sheehan, who knows probably more about every American conspiracy than anybody I know. Partly because you were involved in half of them as a public investigator and kind of people's advocate, whether it was Watergate or Karen Silkwood. Now you represent a lot of the UFO whistleblowers, Stephen Greer, Lou Elizondo, John Mack before that, who was the head of the Harvard Psychiatry Department and studied alien abductions for the last 10 years of his career. So it's an honor to have you, and I'm excited to I think we're going to have a pretty crazy conversation. And
terrific.
Why don't we start actually with UFOs? I think they're sort of very in the zeitgeist right now, but I think a lot of people in the UFO disclosure world feel very frustrated because last year you have David Grush from the National Geospatial Agency coming out, blowing the whistle, and literally a year ago, August of 23, saying in front of Congress that we've had
July 26th.
July 26th. That's right. Okay, good. That's amazing. Good memory. Saying that we have had a legacy reverse engineering programs. We've had crash retrievals of UFOs. We have them in our possession, in various aerospace warehouses.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And it's a sort of bombshell.
So I'm gonna play some more clips from this one because, oh my God, this interview is so incredible. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna read the blurb underneath the video, so that people get a better sense of who this person is. So first of all, this is Jesse Michels. So this is the person I mentioned. He has a great channel, does amazing interviews like these. He also interviewed David Grush, but he is also connected to Peter Thiel. So that's something to keep in mind. But anyway, he's interviewing Daniel Peter Sheehan. Daniel Peter Sheehan was first on Ross Coulthardt's show, where he also did an amazing interview, by the way. And he's a Harvard-trained constitutional and public interest lawyer, public speaker, political activist, and educator. He's been a public defender in about half of the major American conspiracies in the last 50 years. He knows more mind-blowing names, dates, and timelines than anyone when it comes to the JFK assassination, which they will talk about. Very interesting. Watergate, they're also going to talk about that in this interview. The Pentagon Papers, he was involved. Iran-Contra, sorry. And he's right. He's a walking encyclopedia and also incredibly deep on UFOs, having represented all of the biggest UAP whistleblowers, and then that's sort of the blurb. It sort of goes on, when we interviewed Matty, or when Matty was on, I think 2 or 3 shows ago, he was also that person who got, and that story he also explains in this interview. He got access to the hidden files or the classified files of Project Blue Book, right? Because Project Blue Book from the Air Force was basically a giant cover-up of the UAP or UFO stuff. And sort of the conclusion of Project Blue Book was the opposite of the study itself, right? So from the study itself, it was pretty clear when you go through the endless cases that it's real, and the conclusion, which was sort of when you go into sort of the politics and the people who sort of were on the board, it sort of makes an opposite conclusion from the study itself. It says like, oh, there's nothing there to see, go away.
Yeah, and I think Project Blue Book is Antichrist. That's how they create Antichrist. That's my conclusion.
Oh yeah, but that's Project Blue Beam.
Oh, sorry.
Blue Beam. That's something different. But Project Blue.
Yeah. Project Blue Book is a very sorry. My brain didn't work.
No problem.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Carter had at some point UFO experience. And by the way, there's an excellent book about presidents and UFOs. I'll also link it down below. And from that book, it is apparent that every U.S. president has some level of exposure, either on a personal level or, because of briefings or connections or whatever, that they are aware at some level
Not Trump.
About UAPs. And the book sort of...
Not Trump.
Trump also.
Trump also? Okay. Because I think they didn't even tell him. He tried to get the information. They didn't trust him enough to give that information. Because I know one thing.
Yeah,
if
but
Trump
he
knew about it, he would have said it, because he
Yeah.
cannot control his mouth.
Well, yeah, I think you might be wrong about that latter thing, but it is his uncle. His uncle was sort of connected to Nikola Tesla, and sort of the cover-up over there, and also with Richard Nixon. So there's this connection between Trump and Nixon and Nikola Tesla, and sort of that goes way back. He also speaks about that a little bit in interviews.
Yeah, I know Bill Clinton tried really hard, and then they wept him.
Anyway, so what did I want to say? Okay, so he got the assignment from Jimmy Carter to sort of look into this, and I kind of got the details because it's kind of complex story, but somehow he got granted access to the hidden files or the secret files of Project Blue Book, sort of the classified that didn't come out, that are still classified to this day. And he went through it, and he tells the story about how that happened. And he saw pictures of UFOs and markings, and he made copies of it. And he actually shows it in this interview. He sort of draws the markings. So maybe that's nice to go there. Let's see, where is it? So when I watch these things, I make notes because it's just, crazy stuff. Let's see. Watergate. I think it's a little bit back. But this guy, he knows so much. And there's 1 hour, 27 minutes. 1 hour, 27.
So this clip is about Watergate?
No. That was another note that I made.
Okay.
Wait, I think. Sorry, that's commercial.
No.
Okay, I think it's about here. Okay. So this is where he sort of talks about the story that I just told, that he sort of got access to the hidden files of Blue Book, and he's gonna sort of draw the markings that he saw from the picture. So that's pretty cool. Here we go.
I can sketch the UFO. I can show you exactly what it looked like. Okay, so here's the photo.
Yeah.
And it's you can see the field here, and it was such that you could see the plowed. There was this thing plowed right straight through here. This is the dirt with all the dirt all kicked up all along the side of this trench, and the trench was dug all the way through the field, and the craft itself was like this, and it was stuck in the side of the hill, and the hill came down like this, and it was stuck. Well, it wasn't that tall, it was like up here, and it was stuck there. And around the bottom of the dome on top of here, there was right like this around here, there were all of these little symbols. There were these symbols that were here, and they looked like this. And that's what they went all the way around here.
Have you spoken to like a symbologist since then? Do you have any sense of? You
No,
should.
I hadn't. What I did is I walked out of there. When I had them, and I walk out, and I walked past these two guys. And they were kind of surprised that I had come out of there so fast. I mean, I've kicked myself 100 times since then. Why didn't I stay in there and try to figure out more stuff? So what I did is I was kind of freaked out.
Anyway, he goes on. It's a long story. These are all long stories, but these are the markings that he saw. And the story that he tells is really incredible.
These markings are very common on UFOs because I've seen a lot of reports like that, and even in a lot of movies, they show these markings. So they mean something. We just need to figure out a way to decode them.
Yeah, and that's something
They're
else.
similar to, by the way, Sumerian. Cuneiforms?
Yeah.
Cuneiforms are like that. They are not exactly like that, but they have stuff like that. They have like a one big line and then a small symbol around it. That's how cuneiform work.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Very similar, not exactly, but looks like, when I see that, it looks like something from ancient Sumeria.
Yeah, because we also did episodes about that, and what's America exactly doing in the Middle East. But also sort of these ancient technologies and pyramids and cigarettes and all these kind of things, the Stargates. So So and one other thing that's very interesting from this guy Sheehan is that he's a Jesuit.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
all right.
Yeah, so that's a super interesting angle. That's a shame that Jesse Mitchell doesn't go into that. Maybe he does, but it's sort of not in the interview.
He did. Yeah.
But,
Oh,
but
and not in.
yeah, but I found that super interesting. He also mentions that to Ross Coulthard. So we also talked about the Vatican, right? And I've always been kind of puzzled by why the Vatican is so into UAPs. I mean, you can think about stuff, right? Maybe they're what you call progressive in the sense that they think like, okay, they exist, so we're gonna win their souls, or maybe they know something about the past, or anyway, what do you think? Why is the Vatican so interested in UAPs?
Oh, basically, every religion should be very interested, first of all, in that phenomena, because that will kind of solve the puzzle of the religion. Also, it is a big threat to the religion because all religion are earth-centric. So they want to make a strategy to save their religion, to understand what is happening out there. Because, for example, if aliens comes here from a different planet and they say they evolved separately and they don't know Jesus or a god, or they have a total different god, that will destroy or at least create a big confusion. So they want to come up with the solution
Like a
first. They
preemptive.
want, preemptive. But in order to come up with the solution, they need to know the problem. So they don't even know the problem. So what they want to do, they want to surpass everyone and get the data first so they can analyze. That's why they have these secret orders which are working together. And I think there is some inter-religious group working as well in Abrahamic, like all three big Abrahamic religion, not mainstream, but the secret groups which are trying to figure out a way to solve this problem.
Yeah,
That's why we got that's why we got the whole narrative of demons, that these UFOs are demons, like what Tucker Carlson is pushing. I don't think so, but that's one narrative. I think that came out of that Vatican.
Yeah, and that's of course the way that they look at it. So that's their interpretive. In Dutch you say kader. Framework, that they look at it, and you can look at it in different ways, of course, but that's sort of the Christian and most religious framework to look at the UAP is with gods and demons. And
then second thing, other than that part, they are also curious to know, like, if, because there is a possibility, even remove Jesus, there is a God. They definitely believe on God, so they know this universe exists, so there is a possibility that God have created other species out there, which makes more sense. So they want to know them first, and so they are curious, and they also have to save their ass. So they are getting ready for everything.
Yeah, so that was also my line of reasoning. Plus, another thing, you probably thought of that too, is religions go back way back in time, right? They're usually 2,000, 3,000 years old, these religions. So they come across crazy shit, right? And and that goes into they report it, they catalog it, and that also triggers their imagination, of course, and they think like, what are these kind of strange encounters? What do they mean, right? I mean, with miracles, right? So in the Western world, with science and reductionism and materialism, we have learned ourselves, teach ourselves, conditioned ourselves to not believe in that stuff. It's just
and eschatology, like every religion have an eschatology which tells about an Armageddon with some powerful beings which are non-humans. So for example, Antichrist is being warned in every religion with different name. Like Christians call him Antichrist, Jews have a different name, Muslims have a different name, even Hindus have a figure like that. And then if you go there in details, you will see different types of armies like Gog and Magog. People think they are like humans, but they are not. the way they are described, the way they come and take over, they're imprisoned and whatever the theories are. But the story is like they have been warned about the end. So they are also trying to get ready just in case if it is that antichrist which is going to attack. So we need to be ready, whatever they can do using that. So that's why
Yeah.
they want to be a step ahead of everyone.
And I'll with this interview, because this interview is super good, but it's also super long. So what I will do for the people who are watching this, I'll put my notes underneath the video so that you can see the timestamp and then my notes behind it, so that you don't have to watch the whole thing. But if you think, oh, okay, that's interesting, I'll just skip to that part. So, but so that I that was also what I thought. But there is also a very different angle that I hadn't thought of, but that's becoming more and more apparent. And I think that's this section over here. So I'm gonna play it, and then you can tell me what you make of it.
He turned around and left.
Do you have any takes on the UFO thing that very few people agree with you on, or that are really out of left field sounding to the average person or something?
No, this is so unfair. No, this guy's so lucky. I have to work harder.
I hate
All of them are out loud left field.
Yeah, I mean, but not, in a world where like it's actually seen as somewhat conventional to believe in at least the phenomena itself, do you have any sort of really contrarian takes on how this stuff works? Or
no, what I do believe is that it has an awful lot to do with consciousness.
Yeah.
They're monitoring us, trying to gauge our state of evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
Because that's a very big deal to them.
Yeah. I agree with that.
They use it to drive their craft, to navigate. They telepathically communicate. That this whole thing of the level of consciousness that we're at is really important to them.
Do you think legacy programs have made any sort of progress on this stuff?
It's kind of a branch office of it, which is the remote viewing stuff that Hal Puthoff and the Targ and those guys have been involved in.
Do you think that's still in effect? And
oh yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really sophisticated stuff. I mean, really sophisticated stuff.
What gives you conviction there? I mean, obviously, it pops up in skinwalkers at the Pentagon that they're studying it, as part of ATIP and OSAP or whatever. But like that, to me, is small.
What they accomplished in that program, which they're lying about to everybody. Say, oh well, it didn't get very far. They couldn't. They kind of shut it down.
So what do you think they actually accomplish?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Because I've read the whole file on it.
Or you're just talking about like Joseph McMonigal?
No, I'm talking about Pat Price.
Okay. What happened with Pat Price again?
Pat Price was such an accomplished remote viewer.
Yeah.
That they actually he got to a point where this one particular thing, and the reason I saw this parenthetically is that I was asked to be the attorney for L. Ron Hubbard.
You were?
In the church.
Okay. Before we go there, so what do you make of this stuff?
Well, I don't know. I don't even understand what's the point he's trying to make. Maybe you go ahead, then I will give my opinion because I lost what he was saying.
Yeah, so basically he's saying like that consciousness plays a huge part in the UAP file. And there's other sections in the interview where they also go over it. I thought this one was the best, but maybe there's others that because it's so much information.
Okay,
but anyway,
with the consciousness part, there is a possibility that they can project their consciousness from distant planet to Earth, because then they are not bound by the laws of physics. So that's what remote viewing we are trying to do, where we are just projecting ourselves. So maybe that's one way of operating these vessels, that you don't have to be inside them. Your consciousness is just remote controlling it, and that's what remote viewing is. Yeah, it is possible. I don't know how it works because we don't even understand right now what consciousness is. Like we don't have exact answer. What's a soul? What's a consciousness? Other than like the religious view, and they are not even elaborated in there. But we know there is something, but we don't know what it is. Until we figure out what that is, we are not able to use it. That's the main problem.
No, I totally agree with that. Right, I studied philosophy. I'm actually a doctor in philosophy, and I find consciousness super interesting. And so I read tons of books on it. But what the major takeaway from studying consciousness is that nobody has any clue what it is. Like got like 10, 20, maybe even 30 or 40 different definitions out there, and there's no catch-all definition. Like there's
and every spiritual group have created their own definition, and I don't think anybody have actual idea because I won't say it's impossible to prove because there must be a way, we just don't know yet. But it's really, really, really hard to figure it out. But eventually we can figure out. But I don't think we can figure it out through the physical meaning, like physical experiments. I think we need to enter into a spiritual dimension to learn. And I think one way to do it is through psychedelics. But again, it's very, very, very risky for the person who is trying there. So it's a very complex problem, but we need to put an effort into it.
Yeah, and I recommend people check out Donald Hoffman because I think he's one of the most breaking people in this area. Exploring consciousness in a sort of scientific way. But yes, and the problem, of course, with consciousness is that we are that consciousness. So you're basically studying yourself with the thing that you're studying. So it's like it makes it very difficult to sort of separate yourself from the thing you're studying because
it's not very hard because I don't think it's that hard because we do it every night when we go to sleep. Our consciousness separates and enters some other realm. Our physical body is sleeping. There is a connection, but the conscious is traveling somewhere else. That's what I personally believe. So it is possible. It's just we need to figure out a way because all the out of body experiences, a lot of people try that. They say that they separate it from their body. They don't die. They figure out actual way of doing it. So yeah, there is a way. You just need to put an effort into it.
I mean you can study it, like no doubt about that, and many people have successfully studied it also in philosophy, right? There's like tons of super interesting books that dive into consciousness and you learn a lot, but the problem is you cannot sort of come to a definitive conclusion.
First of all, it's really hard to believe for a normal person to believe in that thing. Until I had my own experience with psychedelics, and it was an out of body experience because I saw my body from the top, which means I was floating above it. So that way, until then I was like, a lot of people say that you can have it. I was like, yeah, they're just bullshitting. But when I personally experienced it, then I realized, oh no, that is true. It's just we need to figure it out. And that's the biggest problem.
I actually know somebody else also within crypto who had something similar. Her story is also, I'm trying to get her on and talk about it, but I'm not going to reveal who it is. But her story, well, it's mind blowing. But anyway, so to tie it back to the Jesuits and the Vatican and why they might also be studying this phenomena is actually kind of obvious when you think about it, because one of the things that is sort of happening throughout the UAP file, and Jesse Mitchell's made that point in this interview, which was very receptive of him, is often the UAPs target specific individuals, right?
Yeah.
So many people say like, okay, why do they land on the lawn of the White House, right, and reveal themselves? Why go after these insignificant individuals in the middle of nowhere and abduct them or whatever?
Yeah, the point is when somebody make those arguments, I don't even want to talk to them because they are so far behind. They have there is like a big difference between a person, and to be honest, there is no point for me to talk to him because he's so far behind. The first, If there is someone who have studied and then he's open to ideas, then I'm ready to talk. But if somebody come up with these stupid ideas, why don't they land on White House? That's something. Why would they, first of all? And then that's a stupid idea. Like, they do you think they care about the White House, or they actually want to reveal themselves? So if somebody make those arguments, I don't even want to answer that, because if you understand what's actually happening and how they are dealing with humans for thousands of years, you will know what's happening, and then you won't ask that question.
But the
So I
point
don't
is,
think this question doesn't deserve an answer.
but the point is, they do target specific individuals, and
They do
sort of-
target a specific, but
and
not
they
for that reason, like what people think. Yeah.
no,
Unless,
and yeah, and they stick with them. Usually, their family line also gets sort of involved in it. Sometimes these abductions, go through the lineage of the family. Sort of, if the first one has it, then the child often has it too.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of interesting study going on in that regard. We're also going to play a little bit from that. But sort of what is, I think, a very interesting angle from this interview, and even though Sheehan, the Jesuit, doesn't sort of affirm it, my takeaway is that Mitchell says, like, okay, they're targeting specific individuals, and often when these individuals are targeted, then the government, or at least the black ops guys, show up and they make a big deal about it, and some very high level people start showing interest in these insignificant people who had this experience, right? So he names names, and he goes through all these different anecdotes and stories to back up his claim, but anyway, that doesn't really matter.
One thing I want.
Well, it does. Actually, it does. Yeah, it matters a lot. But for the argument, so these religious figures throughout history, like Jesus, Muhammad,
Exactly.
Moses, they are very likely similar individuals. Like, so people who have
And saints, a lot of saints. Like, even if you take out the prophets, there are thousands of saints. There are still some saints out there. Now we call them like the contactees, but that's saints. And if you go and read the stories of the saints, that's similar. If you if you're talking about prophets, talk about Ezekiel. He saw a UFO, chariot of Ezekiel, right? And then prophet, like Jesus went to the skies. He went to the hell and everything, and he returned. Prophet Muhammad had the same journey. He went to the skies. He have a literal journey. It's called the Night of the Ascension, where in one night he went to the heavens and skies and saw a lot of the things. So yeah, I think there is a connection in that way. And these days, in modern days, before the UFO phenomena, we used to call them prophets or saints. Now we call them crazy contactees.
Yeah, and then and also possessions, right? The negative version of that, right? Because we believe these people become crazy, they're psychotic, or they have like an episode or whatever. But when you really sort of go into these exorcist files, which are super interesting, kind of scary, but also super interesting. Of course, there's a lot of garbage and a lot of nonsense, but there are also sort of genuine cases where you can actually ask yourself.
There are way more genuine cases, and it's global. It's not limited to one country or one area. It's everywhere, like from Asia to Europe to Africa to South America to North America. Everywhere you go, you will find possession cases. And then there are specific ways of getting rid of that entity which take over the body.
So you can sort of understand the framework that they use with devils and angels, right? So because some of these experiences are terrifying and also quite dangerous for themselves and their environment, and others are sort of almost angelic or extremely positive, and or at least seemingly so. So anyway, so you can sort of understand from a Jesuit or Vatican perspective that tracking the UAP file and sort of the research that's connected to it, and the individuals that are identified and had these experiences are super interesting from their perspective, because that might actually reveal something about Jesus or these religious individuals or saints or possible saints in the future, or sort of, because the whole UFO thing is also spawning a lot of new religions, right? Left and right, and some people are making the claim, like Pasalka, that the UFO thing is actually the first religion which has characteristics of religion, because he's a religious scholar, that sort of merges science, technology, and religion, like where they come together, like the spiritual and the mechanical and the reductionist, and where it all comes together. And the American government is also tracking closely UFO related religions, like they're infiltrating them, they're cataloging them, they're tracking them, right? There's actually books about that where they not only follow cults but also these specific kind of cults. And so that's a very interesting angle. And so I'm gonna play this clip to give it a little bit more a scientific backup. So this is from the interview and the revelations of Lou Elizondo, who recently released the book Imminent, which I haven't read yet, but it's on my reading list. This interview, by the way, is brilliant. I recommend Ross Coulthard. He's a top researcher, but he also did an excellent job in this interview, because he also showcases the person Lou Elizondo, and not only the person but also the sacrifice as a person that he made in revealing this. So there's a whole section in this interview where he shows the immense sacrifice on a personal level to him and his family, just like David Grush, that he made in order to reveal this information. So sort of to make the case that whatever you might think of Lou Elizondo, it's not like it was just that he did it for fun or something, or just because his superior told him. He's like he did a genuine sacrifice. So anyway,
I really like, just to let everyone know, I really like Louis Elizondo. Big fan of him. I don't think he's doing it for stupid reasons.
So this part is very interesting.
One of those implants, haven't you?
I have been privy to some very interesting things.
This photo, he says, shows one of those interesting things. It's allegedly a biological sample removed from a US service member and submitted for analysis. This is possibly an alien implant.
Well, if you look, there's actually a piece of the chip sticking out and what appears to be these fibers that were moving on their own. And then it looks like this chip or whatever this is, this foreign object, is encapsulated by some sort of biological material.
Could that not be something biological, microbiological, or parasitic?
Well, it certainly, the outside looks like it's some sort of masking device. In essence, you have a foreign object, which it's a metallic object in there, and it seems to be encapsulated by some sort of biological material.
But how do you know it's not just a bit of metal that somebody's knocked into on a building site?
Well, in this particular case, this was moving on its own. It was actually had its own metabolic activity, and it terrified one of the doctors who was looking at this under a microscope. Said they didn't want to see this again.
But
so let's stop there for a second. So this is about implants. That's also a very interesting angle when it comes to UAPs, and there's also a lot of investigation and research done in that area. It's, I think, one of the hardest things about the UAP file when you go into sort of the abductions and implants and that kind of stuff. It becomes really, really difficult to
and it will explain somehow, like somewhat explain the reasoning for contacting specific people. Because, for example, if they implant this, because what they say is metallic, but it has its own metabolism going on, they are moving. So if they plant it in our great-great-great-grandfather, and they just want to see a result in the great-great-great-grandson, that is that metal being passed on. So maybe that's why they're specifically targeting specific people.
And are they sort of chipping us like we do with cows and animals, right? And what are they measuring? But I think it's also interesting in the context.
I don't think it's chipping, because there are easy way to track humans, especially with social media, they just have to go and just create a Twitter profile and see what that person is doing. But I think it's more than that. I think they are implanting it to create some evolutionary change in humans, and they want to see it in the lineage of the person. For example, if they abduct you and no one else before you in your family tree, now they want to abduct your great great grandson and see, did you pass that thing? So if you pass that thing and that person have traces of that metal in there, or it does something evolutionary, then they will keep track on him. Otherwise, if you did not pass that thing in your lineage, then they will abandon that. So this is what happens. Some cases they just abduct one time, they do some experiment and they leave. Sometimes they will keep watching it, keep abducting the same person. So I think if they find the traces of the same material in the bloodline, then they will keep monitoring you. I think there is more than just tracking.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there is, right? I mean, this is not like simple technology that we're talking about, but tracking might be one of the functions, right? Because there's a lot of people and people migrate, and if you're coming from who knows where, it might be easy, just to quickly locate somebody that you're having an interest in and to read out whatever it is that you're
but our government is tracking us without implanting anything, and I think they're way more advanced than our government, so they can do it without just implanting it. I think it's more than just tracking. And
I agree. I totally agree that it's more than just tracking, but tracking might be one of the functions, right?
Yeah, tracking in the sense like they want to track the person who have been implanted with something, so they can keep a record of the person, but that's for that reason. Otherwise, what they're going to do by tracking a fucking human in a planet, right? Because we are not traveling to other places, so we are stuck here. So the only reason is like they want to keep monitoring that person, so that metal chip have one minor, very small tracker in that, so they can keep a track of that person who is
their property,
who's passing this technology to his lineage.
And I think it's also interesting, just to stick with the implants for 1 second, is because we have no idea what's really going on, right? This pure speculation, all of this, but we are also moving towards a world where they want to implant us as a species, right? The government. So maybe what we're seeing here are sort of the first test cases of what is gonna be implanted in all of us.
Yeah. Because one thing is, all the soldiers have to get a lot of vaccination in order to be deployed. So maybe that was of a test, and we are thinking it is alien, but it's not alien. It's something from our own corporations.
Yeah, and maybe in coordination or in cooperation with this species or whatever,
could be a coordination.
So, but I'm gonna play this a little bit more because the second part is actually even more interesting.
Are UAPs abducting people at random, or are they drawn to certain individuals? Elizondo says research has revealed an intriguing pattern among UAP experiences in a fascinating part of the brain.
This is a part of the brain known as the quadrate putamen, and it is a very specific part of the brain. It's responsible for all sorts of stuff, and some have even speculated precognition
but certainly intuition.
Intuition for sure.
Elizondo says the quadrate putamen is larger in people with alleged psychic powers, what the government has called remote viewing. What about people who've had UAP experiences?
Very interesting. The same thing. And by the way, that's not me telling you. These are medical doctors and scientists.
Stanford immunologist Dr. Gary Nolan has been researching this topic, and while his conclusions are not definitive, there are two working theories. One.
Anyway, so I also linked the interview with Gary Nolan that he did, which is also and Gary Nolan is not anybody, right? He's like a world-renowned microbiologist.
Gary Nolan is amazing. Like, people need to go and look for him. He's amazing.
Yeah, with multi-million-dollar companies that he raised, and he's like a not just some cook or something.
Yeah, he's an intelligent and rich person.
And super smart. Yeah. Yeah. So, but what they're showing is that a certain area of your brain is sort of connected to the UAP phenomenon, and he's sort of talking like there's two working hypotheses. Like the one hypothesis is that either that area becomes more active or enlarged after encountering the UAP, so it sort of triggers a biological transmutation, or the other option, which seems to be more prevalent, is that you actually already have it, and that's why they track you. That's why they're interested in you, and that's why you can see them and other people can't see them. It's sort of like almost like an antenna or something, that you are more open to the world, and that you literally can see more stuff than other people can notice or see. Or
yeah.
So and that sort of ties into with the Jesuit and sort of the Jesus and the Muhammad figures. Like, maybe these people had that kind of brain configuration.
And one thing about Jesus is like he died, but when he came back to life, after that he disappeared. He went somewhere, so he must have gone to either a different dimension or a different planet, because we don't have his grave or his body, because he went up and he said, I will return. So it must be either on a different planet or a different dimension. In both cases, there is a place where a person go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Jesus's grave would have been very known, because his death was not like unknown death. It was a very famous death. And then
that's an interesting point. Yeah, because with many religious figures, they suddenly disappear, and then people have like, did they even exist, right?
Yeah.
Because
Elijah is a case like that. Prophet Elijah, Prophet Enoch. There are many people which disappear. And by the way, if there are like stories of whole civilizations, like Mayan civilization just disappeared. So there are like even the Egyptian civilization which built the whole pyramids, because it's not the one you think they built, the way they claim that Pharaoh did that. No, there was a whole different civilization which built it. They disappeared.
And you actually have like peoples who sort of come out of nowhere. Like you got the collapse of civilization by Eric Klein in 1177, I think, before the Common Era. Where they talk about an invasion of the sea people, and they haven't been able to sort of identify these people and where they came from. They have some prophecies, but they so perhaps
sea people were like the biggest enemies of the Egyptian people. Like Egyptian literature is full of sea people, but nobody knows where they come from.
Yeah.
They just give an idea, but the people they are associating to be sea people are not the sea people.
So this is like the perfect bridge to this clip that I'm gonna take. So this is brilliant. We laid it all out. So we got people who have a certain brain configuration which is abnormal and doesn't appear in society a lot, like in the population, that allow them to sort of either spot or be spotted by these UFOs. Then you have these religious figures with the characteristics associated with that they often don't leave traces, that the stories are wild and unbelievable, and that they change nations, and that they're and religious spring up around them, and the saints, and they they have all these strange encounters and signs and omens and whatever. Then you have the Jesuits and the Vatican and other religious or intra-religious organizations that are basically tracking these kind of people and these abductees, and the government and the shadow organizations that putting like a ton of effort in sort of identifying these people and sort of tracking them after they have an encounter, that you think like, okay, but these just regular people, like why would you put so much effort into sort of following them and researching them? So watch this clip, because that might reveal a little bit more.
He showed me this model that they had been using back in the it looked like maybe it was something from the 60s, to teach these pilots how much time dilation there is per the amount of space that they've traversed in these vehicles. It was like some kind of a gyroscopic device. And it showed that if you traverse, this much distance in space, there's this much dilation in time. And the reason he had this thing is because it was antiquated. It was like from the 60s, and they weren't using it anymore. They had ripped it out, and it was like an heirloom,
Yeah.
And they basically gave it to him as a keepsake. So, which I found interesting. And I tried to take a picture of it, but he picked it up and took it away from me. So anyway, he told me he went down into this facility and that they're reverse engineering stuff and that they're trying to train pilots in how to fly these reverse engineered zero-point energy craft. But okay, what's the really important thing about that is that on a theoretical level, I've written extensively in Closer Encounters about how UFOs are actually time machines. And if you really stop and think through that carefully, you realize why, under the current socio-political conditions, this technology can't be released. With the kind of society we have, domestically, globally, with the state that humanity is in at the present time, the release of that kind of technology into the public sphere would be utterly catastrophic, right? I mean, you can't give Tom, Dick, and Harry a time machine to put in their garage. You see, that's the thing. It's not like these are Jetsons cars that just, fly you across country really fast. They allow you to traverse different epochs in human history. And I think one of the reasons that our history is so messed up, when you look at these really regressive, tyrannical religious belief systems.
Anyway, there he goes on a tangent.
That thing scared the fuck out of me. I didn't know about this one, but I need to just share the link after that. I need to hear more about it.
Yeah, well,
because UFOs.
Wait, before you go on. So that interview is from Reza Jorjani. I got a couple of his books. He's a very controversial figure. I think he's absolutely brilliant and probably also very well connected. When you watch that interview and the stuff that he talks about and what he's been through, I think every single word that he says is true because I know him for like a very long time. But it shows you about how secret services work, how it shines a particular very interesting light in sort of what's happening with Trump and the alt-right, and that this interview will blow your mind. It's like almost on the same level as the one with Sheehan. It's also extremely long, but go on.
This looks amazing because first of all, what he's saying doesn't look like some stupid person will say, because whatever he's saying, there is like certain authenticity to his words. Again, what he's saying about like you cannot give UFOs to Tom, Dick, and Harry, which is so true because they will destroy everything. Because time travel is like the most dangerous technology, and we know it is possible. It is possible in Einstein equations. So yeah, it's just an engineering problem. And the way he described that UFOs with the gyroscope, like you can, if you travel that much in space, this is how much you're traveling in time. So the way UFO disappear, it makes sense. Like if they're one place in space and then suddenly they change the gyroscope, whatever it is, in time, they disappeared in front of our eyes. But no, they just traveled instead of space, they traveled in the dimension of time.
Yeah, so
they came there some place in future or something. That is crazy, and I'm literally scared because I cannot even trust the pilots, because sometime a crazy pilot decided to go and change some event back in the past. Maybe that's how we got Hitler, because they were trying to change something and then we end up with this Nazi rule.
Yeah,
there is so many things, right? Maybe they were trying to, now somebody goes and try to kill Hitler, we will end up with something even worse kind of situation. So yeah, that's why don't go to past.
And it's like the first time that I ever heard an explanation that I thought, okay, if this is the case, then I can actually understand why they would keep it secret legitimately. Like, that you can actually understand, like, okay, if this gets out, then it would be chaos, like, total chaos. It's like, so if this, But sort of, and this sort of ties in, when we started this conversation about scalar physics and blowing up the galaxy. So that's one possibility with this kind of technology. But another possibility has to do with time travel. And this interview with Reza, he has super interesting stuff to talk about when it comes to time travel. And that's also what we're going to talk about a little bit when we talk about Antarctica in one of our future episodes. But what Sheehan and Reza Jorjani both independently, because I'm pretty sure they don't know each other, say is that pilots of these UFOs, they use consciousness to pilot them, and so you need a particular brain configuration to pilot a UAP, and they allow you to disappear in time. And from the interview with Reza and the stuff that he knows, and it's sort of messes with the heads of these pilots, right? They have trouble piloting these vehicles, these re-engineered vehicles, because of this aspect of the UAP, that you don't just traverse space, but you also traverse time at the same time. So you get totally disoriented, and probably many of these people die. So what if these abductees that the government is super interested in, and the Vatican and other religious institutions, is also because they can pilot these vehicles or are so closely connected to sort of operating ancient or UAP technology, because they have the proper brain configurations, which is also why the UAPs are interested in them in the first place and tag them.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's just opened up can of worms, and now I have to go more deep. This is like a crazy clip that just shaked up everything, because, as you said, this is a very good explanation of the secrecy. Because if you give away the technology of time travel to Russia, for example, if you give it to Russia, they will go and they will try to win a Cold War.
Yeah, maybe they already won.
Or they actually won, and US went back in the past, and then they changed the past. So there is so many possibilities. Like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Okay, well, I got a few more clips. We're sort of we're already
try
over
to
time.
wrap up because we are way out of time.
Yeah, I know, but we have been also away for a long time, so we have. Yeah. So I got another one for you. So this one is also from Ross Coldhart, and this was an interview with the famous Uri Geller. I actually recommend people to watch this interview, because you can think what you want about Uri Geller, but he was actually involved with the Stargate project, and on quite a deep level, and he goes into quite a lot of detail in this interview, and it's super interesting. But he's also an entertainer, and he admits to that. But at the end, he says this just before he closes the interview. And that might also be another angle to this whole phenomenon. So let's see if I can open it, because here we go.
Can I get one final question? Because I know you want to tell me the story. One final question. You were taken by the CIA to Lawrence Livermore Laboratories, and this is on the nuclear issue, and you were invited to use your mind to see if it was possible to manipulate the trigger mechanism for a nuclear weapon, which to me sounds like an absolutely insane idea. But Yuri, tell me what happened.
It's absolutely not an insane idea. There'll be a movie based on that very soon. Listen, I'll tell you something. I'll get back to this, but I'll tell you something even more unbelievable. NSA, which is the National Security Agency, when MI5, MI6 were involved in testing me in London, I managed to dematerialize a tiny little object from point A to point B. Point B was over another room across the wall. They got that information to NSA. NSA figured out that if I can do that, they could probably train a few psychics to erase a Russian city. A Russian city. And this is not science fiction. If you Google this story, it's on my website. My website is urigeller.com. You will freak out that this is absolutely true. They trained people like me to erase cities.
So, and it's actually sort of backed up, not exactly this story, but these sort of capabilities that he's mentioning here by Sheehan. I'm going to try to find it really quickly, if I
When
can.
they, find it, but I'm confused. Like when he say erase the city, which means erase from the existence, like go back in past.
Yeah, that is a good question, because it's at the end of the interview, and they don't have the time to go into it. But I would love to have the answer to that particular question that you ask. Because
what does he mean by that? Like either like destroy it or erase it from existence.
I don't know. I have no idea, but I do.
I need to go and look more into that.
Yeah. We will definitely look closer into that. And I'm now gonna try because it was really. Oh yeah, okay. I remember now. Let's see. I have to decode my own notes. Oh yeah, there we go. 43. Okay, I think we can play that one, and then I got one more, and then that's enough. Is it 1 hour? Let's see. Only 43 minutes. Okay. Oh, sorry. Commercial. Yeah, I really I'm really tempted to sort of go without commercials on YouTube, but I don't want to be.
Yeah. Why waste money? Why waste money, right?
Yeah, they're like the mobsters.
Yeah.
Okay, this one. Listen to this.
Your U.S. income tax forms next year, file them in this little post office box down this little town down in West Virginia. And 85% of the people did it.
Okay, wait.
Next year.
A little bit more.
And he would give them right down to the exact longitude and latitude, down to the minute and second of exactly where that is.
It's about that price.
And he visualized the whole thing and told them exactly where it was.
Remote viewer.
But there was a huge UFO right over the top of the water where that thing was. And it was tracking it and monitoring it. And he had it in the file. I'm going, whoa. I said, this is pretty wild. And then I said, okay, so what else have you got? He says, well, here. And I said, show me the second file. And he showed me the second file. And it was, again, from Ingo Swann. It was a deep inside report from Ingo Swann that they had taken Pat Price in the program up to southern Canada, south central Canada, just north of the state of Michigan. And he brought him to this little facility. It was like this little domed little building, and it had these big, huge dishes on top, these communication dishes on top. And they put this helmet on him, and they had him think a particular message. And they turned all the big antenna down to the northern peninsula of Michigan, that little section that's in there, and had him be telepathically projecting, when it comes time for you to file your national, your U.S. income tax forms next year, file them in this little post office box down this little town down in West Virginia. And 85% of the people did it next year.
That's the clip. So, yeah. So that sort of backs up what Uri Geller is claiming.
So, yeah.
This is, of course, not, erasing the city of Michigan.
That is something I need to go and understand more, because I still don't understand the point of erasing the city. What he meant by that. Secondly, that UFO, he said, like following them over the sea while he was remote viewing. That's what he was saying, right?
Yeah, that was an earlier episode.
Yeah. But that means they were doing that remote viewing on the boat or a ship.
No, I think that particular segment is about him being used as a U.S. military asset in order to track Russian submarines.
Okay.
Yeah, something along
No,
those
but
lines.
when he's talked about like UFO on the sea following them, what does this
Yeah,
is what I'm saying? Like, there's like some confusion. What
yeah.
they are.
So if I remember correctly, it's sort of so he sort of correctly pinpoints where the submarine is located, but then when they look at that spot, then there is also this UFO also tracking it for some
Yeah.
reason, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the problem because of this secrecy. There
yeah,
is so much more even a common man can help, but because of that they don't give it. But then again, there is like a whole time traveler possibility. Then I'm like, I would rather not allow people to have that kind of information. So yeah, it's just a conundrum. We need to figure out if they come out and they say, yeah, we have this technology and that is also with time travel capabilities, that's why we don't want to give the full information to people. At least we have one answer. But if they come out and they say, no, that's not true, that just creates uh, suspicion around them. So I think they need to first figure out a disclosure. They need to give us a disclosure. Yeah, don't give us the technology, but tell us what it is.
yeah. So I just got too much. Well, so basically, what you say is I agree with. Right, that can be quite dangerous, but it's also dangerous in the hands of people without oversight. Right, and at the moment,
Exactly.
it's just sort of there's these clandestine black operations without oversight, which have like superhuman capabilities that apparently they don't abuse.
Yeah, true.
Which is very unlikely. So the national security is actually to get this out into the open, and you got this. So the whole effort with Congress, where we started, like on the one level, it has to do with efficiency and redundancy and spending too much money. Which, since we are broke as a nation in Europe and America, we don't have that money anymore. So we have to run it more efficiently. But on top of that, of course, we got adversaries who are also developing these technologies. So you're in competition. So you want to be more efficient in developing these technologies before they do, and then destroy you with it or dominate you with it. So that's an angle. But on top of that, because it's all this compartmentalization and all these sort of black operations and certain private companies, Lockheed Martin and probably all of the others, they have access to these technologies. But other companies, they didn't get it, right? They were not selected, and they were outcompeted unfairly by an unfair advantage that other companies had over them. So they also want a piece of the pie, right? So they also want to get access to this exotic material and technology. So I think one of the pushes from so I think the different kind of factions, and sort of that's where Peter Thiel and Elon Musk probably also come in, is that they want also a piece of this exotic technology pie and get it out in the open. And one of the things that Sheehan is also talking about, when the bill from Congress got crushed by this Republican senator in the Lockheed Martin area. He sort of vetoed the bill by Chuck Schumer because of imminent domain. That they could claim sort of the technology so they went too far. But so what he's saying is, like, what they want is they want to get this information out there, enough of it, so that the people become aware of this technology, so that they can create patents and then use it to license this technology to governments around the world, and they get the power and the money by sort of licensing it out, but they don't want to expose too much of it. So that's why you get the pushback from these senators. When they go too far, then they say, okay, we don't want to release too much of it. But you got to push from the other side, which is probably consists of individuals who actually want to get it out, like true patriots and people like you and me who just want to know what the hell is going on, and we pay for all this stuff. But you also got people like from the other group who either want to have a piece of the pie, like I said earlier, or like I think the Chuck Schumers of the world, sort of the Democratic camp, who wanted the imminent domain part in there, even though the others said like you're going that will blow up the bill and then you get nothing, but they wanted to get it in there anyway, and then it blew up. They want to have full control, like, because they pushed it out to private companies in order to develop and research it. Now they want to get it back in and use it to create this sort of super state in order to sort of dominate, right? So I think they want to pull the information and the technology back in, claim it for themselves, and then create the super state, and subject all of humanity. It's like the Rothschild faction, sort of. I think the Rothschild faction is sort of like, okay, private enterprise had its use, they developed it, it's finished. Now we want to have it all back and get rid of private enterprise.
I have, like, my view on that is like, do not allow companies to patent the technology, because when you patent something, you release the technology, so no one else copied that exact thing. If you release that, it means Russia will copy it. You can only control it in the United States or the NATO countries, but you cannot stop Russia or China because they are copying your technology.
Unless you destroy them or win, if you do like a new Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and everybody, say, oh,
it won't work. I don't think they should even release it, because if there is a time travel technology involved, which I think it is, so that way that I don't think they should take that path. They should only tell, like, we are in contact with aliens, that's it, and they maybe bring some aliens to introduce to us, like, but the very dumb version of aliens, not the smart ones. So if they don't know anything because they have, like, they must, if there is an alien civilization, there must be scientists and there must be politicians. Just bring alien politicians to talk to us, but that's it. Do not release the technology, because I don't want Chinese, Russian, Israelis, Arabs, Iranians to have that technology.
So I'll play 2 more clips and then we're done. We're way over time, but we're having fun. So this one is an interview about Skinwalker. That's something that we're gonna go into. This is the current owner of the ranch. What's his name again? I'll check out the name.
I know he's like a big interview with.
Oh yeah, Brandon Fugel.
Brendan Fugel, yeah.
So, but this is about the imminent domain and sort of, what we just talked about. And this is Brandon's, and actually Ross agrees with him, but this is his take.
I found it worrying that the state felt that it had the right to confiscate any technology that might have been recovered. And I guess this would include Skinwalker Ranch as well, because presumably
any evidence. Yeah, that would include any evidence or data. And I don't think people understand the consequences of giving that much power and overreach to government authorities to just immediately sweep in. I believe that our best chance of seeing real disclosure and advancement relative to these frontier topics is going to come from the private sector, because for decades, I mean, for likely the last 70, 80 years, there has been an active disinformation campaign to discredit those who've been involved with these topics. And I believe that the truth associated with these topics, especially or specifically within government channels, within the public sector, I don't believe any of that will come forward, regardless of congressional hearings, FOIA requests, or anything of the sort. I believe that the private sector has the best chance of bringing this forward, and I'd hate to see some overreaching, over-aggressive, eminent domain clause that would render a privately funded investigation like mine not only completely terminated, but any evidence associated with that investigation to be sequestered off into some program that will never see the light of day.
So this is sort of the other side of that argument, because I do agree with you that you know keeping this in the hands of private enterprises is a big problem, right? So, sort of what Daniel Sheehan is talking about. But Daniel Sheehan is also saying more or less the same thing. Like, you know, this whole sort of disclosure thing is, first of all, it's sort of created from inside the government by certain groups pushing for it. And I think Louis Elizondo is one of those soldiers who has been told to sort of sacrifice for the greater good, and you know, will back you up along the way, but you do have to make sacrifices. And the same goes with David Grush and the others, that they are sort of soldiers in this war in order to sort of get this out in the open. But we don't exactly know which group they are fighting for and what exactly they are fighting for, right? Because you can actually make the argument that they are fighting for the Chuck Schumers in the world to sort of push for eminent domain, and then everybody says, yes, you know, good that the government can claim it from those evil capitalist and, you know, private people, and, you know, then it will be public good. But, you know, basically, if that happens, then you give your government superhuman powers, which they then will share with us.
It's
right?
a complex problem, but in my opinion, I'll rather have government than a corporate, because government can be controlled by people. But
well, that's the question, right? But Sid, that's the question, right? Because if you sort of watch the interview with Matthew Pines, and when you sort of dive into this whole thing, it's pretty clear that the government is totally out of control, and that, you know, we have no idea who's actually running the government, and voting and elections clearly.
No, but
very limited
the thing with the government is, if it's not in control right now, eventually look, in government you can have Trump. In corporates you cannot have Trump ever. The point is, like, government, there is a way to take over the government, but there is no way of taking over the corporates. So when you have like 1% hope versus 0% hope, I will go with the thing with 1% hope, and that's the government. That's the difference.
I think our best hope is that there will be so much chaos, because you got different governments vying for this technology, because it's probably winner takes all, right? So the person who wins this race will be powerful for the next 1,000 years. And create an interplanetary society, you know, and then maybe something like Starship Troopers or something along those lines. But you also got all these different companies that are feeling the hot breath of their competitors and the government sort of breathing down their neck. And they know they're in the wrong because they're doing stuff that's illegal. So they're sort of trying to cover their tracks and to keeping this, you know, off, but they also know that they're on the losing side. And then there's this cabal of shadowy figures that are sort of government, private, people that run a sort of deep state shadow government that are actually in control, and that's basically where our focus should be. Sort of, so we do need somebody to clean out the swamp without sort of getting drowned in it. But yeah, that's a very complex question. So the final and then we'll call it a day. And that's about the biologics. So the aliens that they recovered, and that's also from the interview of Louis Elizondo. And there's actually other interviews which we didn't even show in this episode. But this clip I can't skip. It's about the aliens that they recovered and where they might be found.
Elizondo claims that some of the answers and perhaps the biological samples can be found here at the Department of Health and Human Services, which oversees the FDA and the NIH.
Certainly we know that a lot of these samples were farmed out to experts like the National Institute of Health, NIH, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which absolutely fall under the authorities of this building. Logically, it makes sense that there are people in that building right now that may know the location of where these biological samples are.
The defence companies Elizondo names, the Pentagon and the Department of Health and Human Services, all categorically deny Elizondo's claims.
Oh shit. But this, and this goes back to the implants and the stuff that we talked about before. And, this is like some kind of Byzantine maze of people, with too much power that are running projects beyond our imagination. And now it has become so big. And there's probably too many people involved, and there's
By the
too
way,
much
that
at stake.
building looked evil. Like, the way it was constructed, it looks like something from extremely suppressive country, which is like controlling everything. That building, the way it was designed, it was like giving me a bad vibe.
Yeah.
But there are some buildings which looks cool, like you want to be entered in there, but this one looks evil. Like it's so cemented, closed.
Yeah.
It looks like you are entering in a
bunker.
prison or something.
Yeah, but the NIH and the FDA, right? These are like serious institutions that
No, they
look
are
after
serious.
our welfare.
They
Supposedly,
do good things too, not always bad things. They
Yeah.
mostly do good things, but then there are bad elements in that.
Yeah.
Because they do like good things with the check and balances on the medicines and all those things. Otherwise, just imagine how many snake oils we would have in the market. So yeah, there are really good things, but then there are bad elements. I don't know if there, like he said, there is a possibility of someone inside that building that knows the location of those biologicals, but I don't know if it's 100% true, because I don't think those who have information like that, they sit in the buildings like that openly. They are usually found somewhere you cannot trace.
Perhaps, but we do have to realize that some of this technology is biological in nature, and can also be used against populations, right? So, and what we talked about earlier with consciousness, and this technology needing certain kind of characteristics in brain configuration, like what if you're a government and you're in a game theory setting where you're competing with adversaries and you're developing this technology super fast, maybe you need to use your population in a certain way to win, right? You have to weaponize your population and to turn them into Homelander, but this is really scary stuff, right? Because that's actually what Putin was warning about. He was not warning about nuclear weapons, but he was warning about super soldiers and that kind of stuff. And that's why we do the show, right? We don't have the answers. We're speculating. I'm just showing you stuff from credible people and informants and whistleblowers and people with legendary curriculum vitae, like that we can only dream of, that run multi-billion companies, or maybe that's a bit exaggerated, but credible people, authorities that have done amazing stuff, and they're talking about this stuff openly, and the people have to wake up and deal with it, right? Yeah. And we're trying to make sense of something Totally confusing. Like,
Yeah, and to be honest, we don't even have any answers. Like, we just try to figure out what other people are saying, and we are learning as we go. And hopefully, one day, when before we die, we will have answers. That's the hope.
yeah, and then the message to the people watching, like, get engaged, like, check out the links down below, tell us what you think, share it with people, other people, and get it out in the open, and make it.
And if you have like it's theories, just write it in the comment, and we will discuss those theories.
Yeah, and if you want to be in the show, like if you think you have like interesting observations or theories or whatever, we will get more people in the show. So
Yeah. Also, if you have experiences to share, like if you have experienced something, you are more than welcome to come and give.
Absolutely.
Tell us your experience, but just don't lie about it, because if you lie, we will know, and then we will destroy you. So make sure it's a real experience.
No. We treat people with respect, and
But if somebody
it's kind of useless to come on the show and lie about it, because that would
No,
be a waste of time.
there are a lot of people who just lie.
Yeah.
With the alien thing, I've met few people. I know they're lying, but if you have a genuine experience, even though it's very minor, just come and let us know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We are open to everyone.
Yeah, and tell us your theory and what you make of all this. And if you have like a clip of something that you think is important that we missed, share it. And that's totally cool. Well, this is the show. This was a very long special edition because we missed too many. And we're going to try to keep it a bi-weekly thing. I'm doing my best.
We will try our best.
And in the meantime, we wish you a really nice evening, day, morning, wherever you are. And take care.
Take care. Bye.